Dungeons and Dragons, Pathfinder, Star Wars, Star Trek, the Discworld. You pick the setting, but regardless of your pick, the beginning of a campaign can always be a little bit tricky. You have to set the pace for your players, set the scene, introduce them to the world and the current situation. Now, can you take inspiration from history when world building and building a campaign? Heck yeah, of course, and to be honest, I really think it helps you tremendously to do so. Thus, I invite you to stick around, have a cup of something tasty and hold on to your dear socks, as I will give you a very short and sweet rundown of what you need to know to take your world building to the next level. Hello all you wonderfully funky people, Funky Monkey here. Welcome to today's episode of Funky Monkey World Building. To be honest, I've been thinking about this episode for a while now and I kinda missed the train, as I would have loved to put it out last month, but you know, life happens. But it's never too late. Now, I've struggled with the start of campaigns and even short adventures quite a bit, but I think I found an awesome idea and I want to share it with you, help you avoid all the struggle. The idea I'm talking about is that of the great siege start of a campaign. Let me give you an example. For almost 4 months, the capital has been under relentless siege. The soldiers are exhausted, the civilians are broken, everyone is concerned, as the food stores are running low and there is no relief in sight. Several attempts have been made to break the siege over the past months, but there are barely any soldiers left to defend the walls, let alone ride out. A call was made to the civilian population. Help us hold the wall, or we all die. There is no surrender. A group of civilians stepped forth. They were from all walks of life. A merchant, an entertainer, a street urchin, a known pickpocket, and even an acolyte. They were the first, but thankfully, not the last. As the numbers dwindled with each assault on the walls, more and more came forth, replenishing the numbers of defenders. The youngest barely able to look over the shield she was given, while the oldest barely able to hold a spear. None were turned away. You and your friends were the first ones to volunteer, and you fought ever since. As desperation mounted, the enemy became bolder and bolder, coming closer and closer to the battlements, knowing full well that it's only a matter of time before they will stand triumphantly over your corpse, their banners flying mightily over the city walls. At this point, only sheer stubbornness and defiance keep you going. So many have perished. So many crippled, so many have been broken. You look around and see it in the eyes of others, the same thoughts gnawing at you. How will it happen? When will it happen? How will you go down? It's too quiet. It's getting on your nerves. Even the 3 idiots, the 3 childhood friends who volunteered together, the ones who used to play dice all the time, laugh out loud, have a gallows humor, and got on everybody's nerves. You miss even them. About a week ago, one took an arrow to the chest and died after 2 days of excruciating agony. You can still hear her cries. The clerics, powerless against the poison the enemy dipped their arrows in. Another fell in the assault 3 days ago, and the last? Well, he is slumped somewhere in a corner over there, quietly sobbing. No one comforting him. No one impressed by his tears. It is an all too common sight nowadays. Everybody's crying. The defenders look on numb as the enemies prepare monstrous siege engines to topple the walls. Everybody's powerless. A few months ago, the garrison managed to take the enemy by surprise and destroy the first siege engines, but since then, the enemy learned their lesson, and there is no one left to even attempt such a feat. The days have grown gloomier and gloomier, as if the sun itself has given up. And as yet another night approaches, the tens of thousands of enemies before the city walls let out a bloodthirsty battle cry that sends chills down your spine. They are preparing for the final assault. And so are you. You feel it in your bones. This might be the last night, the last battle for you, for your friends, for your companions, for the whole city. As the sun is setting, a distant horn echoes over the battlements. Everybody's breathless. Everybody braces for this new threat, and although the gods seem to have turned their backs on you and your people a long time ago, some still whisper a short prayer to the heavens. Everyone rushes to the ramparts, grabbing their weapons as they go, and what you all behold stops your heart for a moment. With the thunder of hooves, an army clad in gold and silver charges at the enemy lines and breaks them. They push the enemy against the walls of your city, and with a well-rehearsed maneuver like a great dance, they wheel around and continue their charge away from the city, leaving the stragglers to you. 10,000 riders and their mounts thundering down upon the enemy, breaking their lines, their spirits, and the siege altogether. With a mighty roar and hope rekindled in your souls, the gates to the city swing open, and what's left of the defending garrison and volunteers rush out to join the battle, cutting down the enemy troops that have pushed too close to the walls. Exhaustion and despair give way to vengeance and bloodthirst. The enemies are swept away like chaff. None are left standing. There are no prisoners. There is no mercy. There is no guilt. As day breaks over the city, the gruesome image of the battlefield comes into full view. Thousands of slain enemies blanket the ground for miles and miles around. What was but a few hours ago an overwhelming army of invaders was turned to dust. You still hear the battle horns of your unexpected allies and survivors in the distance as they are rounding up the remains of the enemy army. The twisted remains of the siege engines loom in the distance. The rows upon rows of tents and makeshift barracks have been turned to ashes. The captain of the guards orders the civilians to clear the area around the city walls and to gather any scraps of food they can find and bring it to the city, in case it is not over yet. As it seems, everything is but a dream. How could this be? Who are your saviors? A few hours later, the horn echoes once more and the riders rally before the gates of the city. They are welcomed with open arms and tears by those who survived through this ordeal. And so the siege was broken, the enemy routed, but not completely defeated. But now it's your turn to take the battle to the enemy. And so your adventure begins. I hope you'll agree this simple beginning opens up so many avenues, gives you so many questions, the answer to which will create the whole setting for a campaign. Why was the situation so desperate? Who was besieging the city or capital? Was this a last bastion situation or just a single battle in a long war? For how long was this war going on? Are the rulers of this realm still around? Who are the allies who came to your aid, and how did the message to them get out? There are so many questions here, just pick whatever feels right for you. The besieging army could be an army of the Nine Hells or even Elysium, why not? That opens up some very interesting cans of worms. The allies could be some unlikely friends or even past rivals who understand the danger of your city falling. So many possibilities. Your imagination is the only real limit here. For this I took inspiration from the Siege of Vienna of 1683, and you'll understand why as we will talk about one of the clear turning points in history. Now, if you like this idea and want to learn more about how history can inspire your world building, with just a bit of effort on your side, make sure you smash that like button, let the algorithm know you want more videos like this, and make sure you subscribe and join this awesome funky community, and just take inspiration from history. I'm here to help you with that. Oh, and don't forget to hit the bell button. Now let's talk about the Battle of Vienna of 1683. How did it come to the Battle of Vienna? If you are wondering how did the Ottomans get so close that they were within reach of Vienna, well, it's simple. In August 1526, the Battle of Mohacs was fought against the Kingdom of Hungary and resulted in the crushing defeat suffered by the defending Hungarians and the death of Louis II, King of Hungary, Croatia and Bohemia. His death, as he was fleeing the battlefield, resulted in all his claims passing to the Habsburg dynasty, thus helping them ascend. And the defeat of the Hungarian kingdom meant that most of Hungary was turned into an Ottoman vassal state. This resulted in the Principality of Transylvania being created as an almost independent state, still vassal to the Ottoman Empire, but governed by Transylvanian princes. Anyway, the Battle of Mohacs was a turning point as it saw the use of some tactics that changed warfare across the world. It was the first time that the Ottoman janissaries used muskets, and moreover, they used a kneeling position, meaning that rows upon rows of musketeers relentlessly fired upon the enemy troops. It was the first time in history somebody used such a tactic. Also, the Ottoman artillery was state-of-the-art for the age and frankly overwhelming against the Hungarians. Oh, and the artillery crews were highly trained elite troops, so that kinda helped the overall victory. Another important element that led to the battle that toppled the Kingdom of Hungary was the alliance between France and the Ottoman Empire against the Holy Roman Empire. France sought allies against their neighbors, the Holy Roman Empire, but neither Poland nor Hungary wanted to wage war with the Holy Roman Empire. The Principal of Transylvania flirted with the idea, but it wasn't enough. After King Francis I was defeated in battle and taken prisoner, upon his release, he forged the alliance with Suleiman the Magnificent and asked the Sultan to attack his enemies. Because the Sultan had his eyes on Central Europe already, he decided to help his newly acquired ally, and because the road to the Holy Roman Empire led through Hungary, he took Hungary. Makes sense, doesn't it? Who was involved in the Battle of Vienna? As the Ottomans and their vassal states set their eyes on Vienna once more, for the second time in history, a coalition was formed to stand against them. A coalition between the Holy Roman Empire and the Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth, alongside Wallachia in secret, but that comes out a little bit later. On the Ottoman side, the armies were led by Grand Vizier Kara Mustafa Pasha, Mihaly Apafi, Prince of Transylvania, leading the vassal Transylvanian troops, Emeric Tokoli, leading the vassal Hungarian forces, and other minor leaders that led their own vassal forces, such as the Wallachian forces under Șerban Cantacuzino and the Crimean Tatar forces. On the other side, we had Emperor Leopold I of the Holy Roman Empire, John III Sobieski of Poland, Charles Duke of Lorraine leading the German forces, Ernst Rüdiger von Starhemberg and the famous military engineer Georg Rimpler as main protagonists, and a suite of other smaller, not that well-known commanders. Prelude to the battle. On 21st of January 1682, the Ottomans started mustering their forces and war was declared against the Holy Roman Empire on the 26th of August of the same year. The delay between the mobilization of the army, the declaration of the war, and the actual start of the campaign in March 1683 gave the defenders enough time to strengthen Vienna and to secure Allied support. King Leopold of the Holy Roman Empire forged an alliance with Pope Innocent XI, with Venice, and with Poland. The alliance with Poland was very important as it meant that if Krakow was ever attacked by the Ottoman Empire, Leopold would send relief troops, and if Vienna was attacked, King Sobieski would come to Leopold's aid. The Ottomans and their vassals fielded a whopping 170,000 troops and around 150 cannons, according to some sources. Of course, these numbers might be ever so slightly exaggerated. While the defenders fielded around 90,000 troops, out of which Sufficient numbers were left to guard bridges and other fortifications, and 2,000 Imperial cavalry units were left on the banks of the Danube. The actual battle. On the 7th of July 1683, 40,000 Crimean Tatar horsemen set up camp less than 50 kilometers away from Vienna, and Emperor Leopold retreated to Passau alongside his imperial court and around 60,000 citizens from Vienna, while Charles, Duke of Lorraine, retreated with 20,000 German troops towards Linz. On the 14th of July, 150,000 Ottoman troops and their allies arrived before the walls. The defending garrison numbered 15,000 troops under the command of Ernst Rüdiger von Starhemberg, with the support of the famous military engineer Georg Rimpler, and 8,700 volunteers and 370 cannons. The traditional terms of surrender were sent by Kara Mustafa Pasha, but Rüdiger rejected them, and the siege effectively began on the 17th of July. Before everything started, the Viennese were ordered to clear an area around the city walls, thus preparing the area to welcome the Ottoman troops, exposing them to defensive fire. As an answer to this, Mustafa Pasha ordered the digging of zigzag trenches perpendicular to the wall to minimize his troops' exposure to defensive fire. To slow down the enemies even further, the defenders placed tree trunks at the base of the walls, making it harder for a swift all-out assault and adding several weeks to the siege overall until the tree trunks were cleared by the Ottomans. Sappers were ordered to dig tunnels underneath the city walls and plant black powder explosive and bring down the walls. Tunnels were also dug by the defenders to counter the sappers that the Ottomans sent. On 15th of August, almost a month after the beginning of the siege, King Sobieski set out from Krakow ahead of a relief force. With him marching for Vienna, Poland was mostly left undefended, and Emmerich Tokoli, the vassal of the Ottoman Empire, tried to take advantage of this and invade Poland, but found himself facing off with the Lithuanian forces that were part of the relief troops headed for Vienna. Some have speculated that Mustafa Pasha did not allow an all-out assault because he wanted to take Vienna with all its riches, and an assault would have given his soldiers the right of plunder, which would have resulted in the near destruction of the city. Famine and fatigue became very common among the defenders, and sources mention that Rüdiger often executed soldiers who were found sleeping while on guard duty, as the defenders were on the verge of collapse. News reached them that Charles, Duke of Lorraine, defeated Tokoli only 5 kilometers northwest of Vienna, and on the 6th of September, Sobieski crossed the Danube 30 kilometers northwest of Vienna after joining forces with other allied forces and mercenaries. Louis XIV of France refused to help against the Ottomans, as the French-Ottoman treaty was still in effect, and he had just conquered Alsace in the west of the Holy Roman Empire, so he was happy. The defenders sent a Polish nobleman who was part of the garrison and spoke fluent Turkish under the cover of night through the Ottoman lines with a message for Charles and Sobieski in an attempt to coordinate the relief effort. During the same period, 5,000 Ottoman sappers managed to breach the outer city walls, creating multiple large gaps in the defense. The relief forces were yet to be properly deployed in the field when on the 12th of September at 4 a.m. the Ottomans tried to push them back. After successfully repelling this counteroffensive, the German troops managed to take several fortified villages close to Vienna. Șerban Cantacuzino, the Wallachian ruler who negotiated with Leopold and Sobieski, alongside his Wallachian troops, abandoned the bridge they were supposed to guard for the Ottoman Empire, and this left the Ottoman left flank exposed and allowed safe passage for the relief troops. Mustafa Pasha dispatched troops to push back the relief force, or at least slow them down, while he made one final push for the city. The sappers planted the motherlode of all explosive charges in an attempt to bring down the final walls. 10 mines in total were set, but luckily for the defenders, the counter-sappers managed to get to them and disarm them just in time. While this was happening, a large unit of Polish infantry began pushing the Ottomans back. At the same time, the German troops under the Duke of Lorraine also engaged with the Ottomans. At 4 p.m, the Polish cavalry emerged from the woods of Vienna, being met with cheers by the infantry. They started probing the Ottoman defenses but took heavy losses. By this time, Mustafa Pasha retreated to his main headquarters further south, and around 6 p.m. Sobieski ordered his cavalry to charge in 4 main battle groups. 18,000 horsemen charged down the hills around Vienna. Sobieski himself led the charge ahead of 3,000 elite Polish heavy lancers, the winged hussars. This charge broke the Ottoman lines, and the horsemen continued their assault, heading towards Mustafa Pasha's headquarters. At the same time, the defenders poured out of the city and joined the assault. 3 hours after the cavalry charge, the Battle of Vienna was over, the Ottomans defeated and routed. Sobieski is mentioned to have said, "Veni, vidi, Deus vicit." We came, we saw, God conquered. The aftermath of the Battle of Vienna. The defeat suffered by the Ottoman Empire before the gates of Vienna is considered the most disastrous up to that point since the foundation of the Ottoman state in 1299. On 25th of December 1683, Kara Mustafa Pasha was executed in Belgrade for his failure to take Vienna by strangulation with a silk rope pulled by several men on either side. Over the next 3-4 years, the Habsburg commander Charles, Duke of Lorraine, retook what areas of Hungary the Ottomans still controlled and most of Transylvania, and in 1688 he took Belgrade. For the next 16 years, the war continued until 1699, when the Treaty of Karlowitz was signed. Sobieski was named Defender of the Faith. The Pope added the Polish crowned white eagle to the official papal coat of arms, and he also moved the feast of the Holy Name of Mary to the 12th of September, the day of the victory. The Austrians built a church on top of the hill from which Sobieski and his winged hussars descended upon the Ottomans. But most importantly, the Battle of Vienna marked the end of the Ottoman expansion in Europe. And with that, I believe we reached the end of this video. I've already told you how you can use all of this information in your world building, so there's no need for a recap. Potato's third name is Lady of the Small Paws. Thank you so much for the privilege of your time. I truly hope you found some inspiration and learned something new today, and I can't wait to see you all funky people here next time on Funky Monkey MP, the place where you get your dose of history, world building, and even trivia. Remember, be curious, take inspiration from the past, and never ever stop learning, world building, and creating amazing things, whatever those are. Your mind and imagination are awesome, and don't let anyone tell you otherwise. Until next time, have yourselves a wonderful, wonderful, funky day. Cheers.